I never thought money could destroy a family until my father passed away. He left me $50,000, a modest savings he had worked his entire life to build. Dad always taught Derek and me that brothers should take care of each other, that family was everything. I thought my older brother would understand, would support me through the grief. But 3 weeks after the funeral, Derek called with a voice I barely recognized. I should have known something was wrong when he started the conversation with, "We need to talk about Dad's money." He did not ask how I was doing. He did not mention our father. He just demanded I share the inheritance. His reason. He was getting married to his girlfriend Stephanie and needed funding for their dream wedding. He was not asking. He was demanding. And that phone call was just the beginning of a nightmare I never saw coming. Before I tell you what happened next, I would love to know where you are watching from. Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if you have ever dealt with family drama over money, hit that like button and subscribe, because this story is going to take some unexpected turns. Trust me, you will want to stay until the end to see how I handled this. The call came on a Wednesday afternoon while I was at work. I had just finished reviewing a client's quarterly report when my phone buzzed. Derek's name flashed on the screen. My heart warmed a little, thinking maybe he was finally reaching out to see how I was coping with Dad's death. I answered with genuine hope in my voice. But within seconds, that hope crumbled. So about Dad's money, he started his tone cold and transactional, lacking any warmth or brotherly concern. I felt my stomach drop. He explained that Stephanie wanted a destination wedding at a beachside resort, something Instagram-worthy, as he put it. The estimated cost was $70,000. $70,000. I could barely process the number. Then came the line that made my blood run cold. Dad would have wanted us to share. You know that, right? I tried to explain calmly that Dad had left a clear will. He had divided his assets deliberately. Derek received a car and some savings. I received the cash because Dad knew I had student loans to pay off and dreams of buying my first home. But Derek was not interested in logic. "That is not fair," he snapped. "You got the cash. I got junk." His words stung. The car Dad left him was not junk. It was a reliable sedan Dad had maintained meticulously. But Derek saw it as inferior to cold hard cash. I told him I needed the money for my future, for paying off $28,000 in student loans and putting a down payment on a house. He laughed bitterly. "Your future. What about mine? What about my happiness?" The conversation ended with him hanging up abruptly. I sat at my desk, hands trembling, feeling like the ground had shifted beneath me. 2 days later, my phone rang again. This time it was Mom. Patricia's voice sounded tired, worn down. "Morgan, honey," she began, and I knew immediately what was coming. Derek had been complaining to her nonstop. "Can you not just help your brother out? It is his wedding. It is a once-in-a-lifetime event." I tried to explain my situation again, about the loans, about wanting to build a stable future. But Mom did not seem to understand. She kept repeating, "But he is your brother. Family comes first." I felt a wave of guilt wash over me, even though I knew I was not doing anything wrong. When I gently but firmly said no, Mom sighed deeply. "I will talk to Derek again," she said, but her tone suggested she thought I was being unreasonable. After hanging up, I felt more isolated than ever. It was as if wanting to secure my own future made me the villain in my family's eyes. A week later came the family dinner. Every Sunday, Mom hosted dinner at her house. It was a tradition Dad had loved. The house smelled of pot roast, exactly how Dad used to make it. But the warmth of the familiar scent could not ease the tension crackling in the air. Derek and Stephanie arrived together. Stephanie had long blonde hair and wore expensive clothes that seemed out of place for a casual family dinner. Her attitude radiated entitlement. Throughout the meal, she dominated the conversation, talking endlessly about wedding plans. "We are thinking Cancun, or maybe the Bahamas," she gushed. "Somewhere, Instagram-worthy, you know." I tried to steer the conversation elsewhere, asking Derek about his job at the electronics store. He gave short, irritated answers. Midway through dinner, Derek suddenly turned to me. "So, Morgan, have you thought about what we discussed?" The room fell silent. Stephanie's eyes lit up with expectation. I kept my voice steady. "I already told you, Derek. That money is for my future." His face flushed red. "Your future. What about mine? What about my happiness? Mom tried to intervene. Boys, please. Not at the dinner table. But the damage was done. The rest of the meal passed in uncomfortable silence. When Derek and Stephanie left, Stephanie shot me a cold glare. I sat there, feeling the family I knew crumbling around me. But Derek did not stop. Over the following days, text messages flooded my phone. Just give us half. That is all we are asking. Then Stephanie started messaging too, her tone sickeningly sweet. Hi Morgan, I know this is awkward, but Derek really loves me and wants to give me the perfect day. You understand, right? I tried explaining again, but my words fell on deaf ears. Then Stephanie began posting on Facebook. Vague posts about planning a dream wedding but facing financial obstacles. Friends commented with suggestions, many saying things like, maybe ask family for help, accompanied by heart emojis. I saw those posts and realized this was psychological warfare. They were trying to pressure me through public opinion. Soon, extended family members started calling. Aunt Linda phoned one evening. I heard Derek needs help with the wedding. You are doing well, right? Maybe you could chip in. I explained my situation for what felt like the 100th time, but I could hear the judgment in her voice. It seemed the whole family had taken Derek's side. I was portrayed as the selfish younger brother who refused to help. The isolation deepened. I felt misunderstood, cornered, and exhausted from constantly defending my decision. Then came the night everything exploded. It was a Friday evening. I had just gotten home from a long day at work, exhausted and looking forward to some peace. But peace was not in the cards. A loud, aggressive knock echoed through my apartment door. I opened it to find Derek and Stephanie standing there uninvited and clearly on a mission. Open up, Morgan, Derek barked. We need to settle this. I let them in, hoping maybe we could finally have a rational conversation. I was wrong. Derek stormed into my living room like he owned the place. Stephanie stood behind him, tears streaming down her face, though something about them felt rehearsed. Please, Morgan, she whimpered. This means everything to us. Derek got straight to the point. Look, I am going to be straight with you. If you do not help us, you are destroying this family. I tried to stay calm, keeping my voice level. I am not destroying anything. I am just protecting what Dad left for me. Derek's face contorted with anger. Dad would be ashamed of you. He always said family should stick together. Those words hit hard. Dad had said that, but he had also taught me responsibility, the value of hard work, and the importance of planning for the future. Derek was twisting Dad's words to serve his agenda. Stephanie jumped in with her script. We are not asking for all of it. Just 30,000. That is less than what you have. I shook my head. And then what? You will come back for more when you need a house. A car. Where does it end? Derek exploded, slamming his hand on my coffee table. You are selfish. You have always been selfish. We argued fiercely, our voices rising to levels that surely disturbed my neighbors. The things we said to each other that night cut deep. Finally, Derek grabbed Stephanie's hand and headed for the door. But before leaving, he turned back with venom in his eyes. Do not expect an invitation to my wedding. You are not welcome. The door slammed shut. I stood there in the silence, feeling like I had just lost my brother forever. 2 weeks passed in a fog of sadness and anger. Then came an unexpected encounter that changed everything. I was grabbing coffee at a local cafe when I ran into Kyle, an old friend of Derek's from high school. We chatted casually at first. Kyle asked about Derek and the wedding. I hesitated and Kyle picked up on my discomfort. Man, Derek always did have expensive taste, Kyle said with a laugh. Remember when we were kids and he always wanted the newest toys? That comment triggered something. As we talked more, Kyle casually mentioned something that made my blood run cold. I heard Stephanie's family is loaded. Why do they need money from you? I stared at him. What Stephanie's family is rich, Kyle nodded, oblivious to the bomb he had just dropped. Yeah, her dad owns a chain of car dealerships. They live in that fancy neighborhood off Maple Street. Big house, pool, the works. My mind reeled. If Stephanie's family was wealthy, why were they pressuring me for money? Something did not add up. I thanked Kyle and left quickly, my coffee forgotten. I needed answers. That evening, I dove into research. I pulled up Stephanie's Facebook profile and scrolled through carefully. Photo after photo showed luxury vacations, expensive restaurants, designer handbags. This was not a woman who lacked resources. This was someone accustomed to wealth. But why would she and Derek need my inheritance? I called my close friend Jason, who worked at a bank. Without violating any regulations, he carefully checked some public records for me. Jason discovered that Derek had recently opened a small investment account. If Derek desperately needed money for a wedding, why was he investing? The pieces were not fitting together. I decided to do something I am not proud of. I followed them. One Saturday afternoon, I tracked Derek and Stephanie to an upscale car dealership. From across the street, I watched through my car window as they walked around a brand new luxury SUV, one with a price tag around $55,000. They were laughing, smiling, taking photos with the vehicle. They did not look like a couple struggling financially. They looked like two people planning a major purchase. I snapped photos on my phone documenting what I saw. My hands shook as I drove home. They had lied. They did not need money for a wedding. They wanted my inheritance to fund their lavish lifestyle. The betrayal cut deeper than any argument we had ever had. I knew I had to confront them, but I needed to do it right. I needed witnesses. The following Sunday, I knew Derek and Stephanie would be at Mom's house for their weekly dinner. I showed up unannounced. Mom opened the door, surprise evident on her face. "Oh, honey, I did not know you were coming." "I need to talk to Derek," I said firmly. "Now." Derek emerged from the living room, his expression immediately defensive. "What are you doing here?" I pulled out my phone without saying a word. "I want to show everyone something." I pulled up the photos from the car dealership and held the screen where everyone could see. "You told me you needed money for a wedding. But here you are shopping for a $55,000 car." Stephanie's face went pale. Derek's turned bright red with fury. "You were following us. That is insane." "Answer the question, Derek," I pressed. "Why do you need my inheritance when you are buying luxury cars?" Mom looked confused and hurt. "Derek, is this true?" Derek stumbled over his words. That is different. We were just looking. We are not buying it." I was not done. "Really?" "Because I also found out Stephanie's family is wealthy. Her dad owns multiple car dealerships. So, why are you pressuring me?" Stephanie stood up, her sweet facade completely gone, replaced by cold anger. "That is my family's money, not mine. They will not help us. So you decided to manipulate me into giving you mine," I shot back. "Because they know you are irresponsible, or because they do not approve of this wedding," Derek exploded. "You have no right to judge us. That money should be split equally. Dad loved both of us." Something inside me snapped. My voice shook with suppressed rage. "Dad left me that money because he knew I would use it responsibly. He left you other things. You are just jealous and greedy." Derek's face twisted with fury. "I am greedy? You are sitting on $50,000 while your brother struggles." I almost laughed at the absurdity. Struggles. You are buying luxury cars and planning $70,000 weddings. That is not struggling, Derek. That is entitlement. Stephanie could not contain herself any longer. "You know what? We do not need you or your money. We will have the perfect wedding without you, and you will regret not being part of it." Mom tried desperately to calm everyone down. "Boys, please let us calm down and talk about this rationally." But Derek was beyond reason. "No, Mom. He has made his choice. From now on, I do not have a brother." He grabbed Stephanie's hand and they stormed out. Mom stood there crying softly. I was shaking, a mix of rage, pain, and strange relief coursing through me. The truth was finally out in the open. Mom looked at me with red, tear-filled eyes. "Why did you have to make this worse?" Those words hurt more than any of Derek's insults. I took a breath and said quietly, "I did not make this worse, Mom. I just showed you who Derek really is." I left shortly after, driving home in a daze. That night I could not sleep. My mind replayed the confrontation over and over, but beneath the pain I felt something else. Liberation. I was done being manipulated. I was done feeling guilty for protecting what was rightfully mine. The next morning, I woke with a clarity I had not felt in weeks. I was not going to let Derek and Stephanie win by making me feel guilty. I called the family lawyer, Mr. Harrison, who had handled Dad's will. I needed legal confirmation of my rights. Mr. Harrison was reassuring. The will is clear, Morgan. That money is legally yours. Your brother has no claim to it. I asked about the possibility of Derek suing me. Mr. Harrison chuckled. He will not win, and honestly, a lawsuit would cost him more than it is worth. That conversation gave me the legal confidence I needed, but I wanted more than just legal protection. I wanted to honor Dad's memory by using the money exactly as he would have wanted. I remembered something Dad told me years ago. Son, when people show you who they really are, believe them, and do not let them take advantage of your kindness. Dad had been a wise man. He had known Derek's weaknesses, his tendency toward jealousy and poor financial decisions. That is why he structured his will the way he did. I decided my revenge would not be petty or destructive. It would be living well and proving I made the right choice. I created a detailed financial plan. First, I paid off my entire student loan debt in one lump sum, $28,000 gone. The weight that lifted off my shoulders was indescribable. I had been carrying that debt for 6 years, and in one transaction, I was free. Next, I put down $15,000 on a small house in the suburbs. It was not fancy, but it was mine. A 2-bedroom cottage with a backyard where I could plant a garden, something Dad had loved doing. The remaining $7,000 went into an emergency fund and long-term investments. I documented each step not to show off but to remind myself I had made the right decisions. I took photos of the loan payoff receipt, the house contract, the investment account statements. These were not trophies. They were proof that I had respected Dad's wishes and used his gift wisely. Each transaction felt like honoring his memory. Dad had worked 2 jobs for years to save that money. He had sacrificed so his sons could have better lives. I was not going to waste his sacrifice on someone else's vanity. A few weeks later, I moved into my new home. It was modest, but cozy, with hardwood floors that creaked slightly and a kitchen window that let in beautiful morning light. I invited close friends over for a small housewarming party. Jason, Kyle, and a few others from work came. We grilled burgers in the backyard, laughed, and celebrated this new chapter of my life. I did not invite Derek. I did not invite Mom, who was still upset with me, but I did not feel bitter about it. I felt peaceful. I was building a life based on my own values and choices. 3 months passed. Life settled into a comfortable rhythm. I focused on work and got promoted to senior accountant. My boss praised my dedication and attention to detail. I started a vegetable garden in my backyard, growing tomatoes, zucchini, and bell peppers. Working with the soil, feeling the sun on my back reminded me of Dad. He used to say that gardening taught patience and the value of nurturing something to help it grow. I was nurturing my own life now carefully and intentionally. Then came news about Derek's wedding. I heard it through Aunt Linda, who called me one evening. She tried to sound casual, but I could hear the awkwardness in her voice. The wedding happened last weekend, she said. It was nice. But something in her tone told me it had not been the dream event Derek and Stephanie had envisioned. Linda let slip that the wedding took place at a local restaurant, not a beachside resort. Apparently, Stephanie's family had refused to fund the wedding after all. They disapproved of how Derek and Stephanie handled money and refused to enable their poor financial decisions. Without my money, and without Stephanie's family's support, Derek and Stephanie had to take out loans. About $35,000 worth of debt for a single day. Linda also mentioned the wedding had problems. The food ran out early. The DJ showed up late. Several invited guests did not attend, uncomfortable with the family drama that had become public knowledge. I listened to all this without gloating. Honestly, I just felt sad. Sad that Derek had destroyed our relationship over money. Sad that he had made such poor choices. But I did not regret my decision. Not for a second. A month after the wedding, I ran into Kyle again. He pulled me aside with a serious expression. Dude, I heard Derek and Stephanie are fighting constantly. Turns out they are drowning in debt from the wedding. And Stephanie's parents are furious because they warned them not to overspend. Kyle shook his head. Stephanie is blaming Derek for everything. She keeps saying he promised her a dream wedding and failed to deliver. My stomach knotted. Their marriage was already falling apart and they had barely begun. 2 months later, Mom called. I almost did not answer, still hurt from our last interaction. But something told me to pick up. Her voice was thick with tears. Morgan, I need to tell you something. Derek and Stephanie are having serious problems. They are talking about divorce. I was genuinely shocked. Already they just got married, Mom explained through sobs. The debt is crushing them. And Stephanie blames Derek for not getting money from you. She said he promised her a dream wedding and he failed. Mom paused, then said something I had waited months to hear. I was wrong, Morgan. I should have supported you. Derek and Stephanie were greedy, and I was blind to it. Hearing Mom's apology should have felt triumphant, but it did not. I just felt tired and sad for everyone involved. Mom continued, your father would be proud of you, Morgan. You handled his money with respect. Tears filled my eyes. That was all I had ever wanted, to make Dad proud and use his gift wisely. I forgave Mom. She had been manipulated by Derek, just like he tried to manipulate me. We talked for over an hour that night, rebuilding the bridge that had been burned. A few weeks later, my phone rang with a number I had not seen in months. Derek. My finger hovered over the decline button, but curiosity won. I answered. Derek's voice sounded hollow, defeated. Morgan the First. I need to talk to you. I agreed to meet him at a neutral location, a coffee shop downtown. When Derek walked in, I barely recognized him. He had lost weight, his eyes were sunken, and he carried himself like a man who had aged a decade in a few months. We sat down, and for a long moment, neither of us spoke. Finally, Derek broke the silence. I messed up. I know that now. He told me everything. Stephanie had left him. She could not handle the debt, the constant fighting, the reality that her dream life was not materializing. She said I was a failure because I could not give her what she wanted, Derek said, his voice breaking. And maybe she is right. I let him talk, did not interrupt or judge. Derek continued. I was jealous of you. I always felt like Dad loved you more, and when he left you that money, it confirmed everything I feared. I shook my head slowly. Dad did not love me more, Derek. He left me money because he knew I needed it for my future. He left you other things because he thought that is what you needed. Derek wiped his eyes. I destroyed our relationship over money. Over something that was not even real. Stephanie never loved me. She loved the idea of what I could give her. I felt sorry for him, genuinely sorry. But I did not regret standing my ground. I forgive you, Derek, I said. But I will not forget. You showed me who you are when things got tough. Derek nodded, accepting that truth. We talked a bit more about neutral topics, avoiding the painful past. When we said goodbye, it was not as brothers who were close, but as two people who had shared a history and were now moving in different directions. There was no hatred left, but there was not trust either. Just a quiet acknowledgement of what had been lost. The months that followed brought healing I did not think possible. At first the pain was sharp. Many nights I lay awake wondering if I had been too harsh, too unforgiving. But I started seeing a therapist, someone who helped me understand that protecting myself was not selfish. She taught me about healthy boundaries and the difference between helping someone and enabling their destructive behavior. Slowly I began to forgive myself for the guilt I had carried. I threw myself into work and was rewarded with increasing responsibilities and respect from colleagues. I deepened friendships with people who genuinely cared about me. Jason became like a brother to me, someone I could trust completely. We watched football games together, grabbed beers after work, and supported each other through life's challenges. I realized that family is not just about blood. It is about who shows up for you, who supports you, and who respects your boundaries. My garden flourished. Those tomato plants produced more fruit than I could eat. I gave bags of vegetables to neighbors who thanked me with genuine warmth. The act of nurturing something from seed to harvest taught me patience and reminded me daily of Dad. Sometimes while weeding or watering, I would talk to him, updating him on my life, thanking him for the wisdom he had shared. My relationship with Mom slowly healed. She came to visit my house and cried when she saw how beautiful and peaceful it was. I am so sorry I did not see the truth sooner, she said. I told her I understood. Derek had manipulated all of us. What mattered now was moving forward. We started having regular Sunday dinners again, just the two of us, rebuilding our bond without the toxicity that Derek and Stephanie had brought. I occasionally texted Derek to check in. The messages were brief and polite. He was working on rebuilding his life, had moved into a smaller apartment, and was slowly paying down his debt. We were not close, probably never would be again, but we were not enemies either. just two people who had learned hard lessons about money, family, and the importance of integrity. Through all of this, I learned something profound. Money does not change people. It reveals who they have always been. Derek had always struggled with jealousy and entitlement. The inheritance just brought those traits to the surface. I also learned that you should never feel guilty for protecting what is yours, especially when others refuse to respect boundaries. The moment I stopped seeking Derek's approval was the moment I found true peace. I do not hate Derek. I pity him. He lost more than money. He lost his integrity, his marriage, and his brother, all because he could not control his greed. Meanwhile, I gained something far more valuable. I gained self-respect, financial security, and the knowledge that I had honored my father's trust in me. The best revenge is not harming others. It is living well, making good choices, and finding happiness, despite those who tried to bring you down. Standing in my backyard on a warm summer evening, looking at the vegetables I had grown and the home I had earned, I felt Dad's presence. I imagined him smiling, proud of the man I had become. He had not just left me money. He had left me a test, and I had passed it. I had proven that I could be trusted with responsibility, that I valued long-term security over short-term gratification, and that I would not be manipulated into abandoning my principles. If you are ever in a situation where family demands something from you that does not feel right, remember this. You do not owe anyone your peace, your security, or your future. Not even family. Real love, and real family respect, boundaries, and support your growth. They do not tear you down to build themselves up. My father did not just leave me money. He left me a lesson. He trusted me to use it wisely, and I did. That is the greatest inheritance anyone can receive, trust and the wisdom to honor it. Sometimes the best revenge is simply living well and proving that you made the right choice all along. And if that makes you the villain in someone else's story, so be it. You are the hero in your own. I learned that my worth is not determined by whether others approve of my choices. It is determined by whether I can look myself in the mirror and feel proud of who I am and the decisions I have made. And every single day I do. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever had to stand up to family members who felt entitled to something that was yours? How did you handle it? Drop your story in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, if it reminded you that sometimes doing the right thing means standing alone, please hit that like button. Subscribe to this channel, because I share real stories about real struggles and real victories. Share this video with someone who needs to hear that protecting themselves is not selfish. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I hope it brought you some clarity, some comfort, or maybe just the reminder that you are not alone in facing these difficult family situations. Take care of yourselves, set those boundaries, and never apologize for choosing your own peace and future. Until next time.